episode of Conversations with Linda is sponsored by Ebony's Delightful Catering. EDC is owned and operated by Ebony Price and was established in 2014. It has a concentration in American cuisine with many signature dishes. Clients love their chicken salad, salmon Philly sandwich, chicken and shrimp Alfredo, as well as Alfredo baked potatoes. That's Ebony's Delightful Catering. Welcome to Conversations with Linda. I'm Linda. You know I love a good conversation, so let's have one. Now, before we have our conversation, I need to give you a dose of good medicine. You know, laughter is good for the soul. So where is the one place you should never take a dog? A flea market. That's a good one. Come on in, let's have our conversation. Well, in our conversation today, I have my co-host with me. You know, my co-pilot, Courtney Richardson. Courtney, welcome to Conversation.
I am happy to be back.
You are my co-pilot.
That's right. We've been at this a long time.
A long time.
And this is just what we do.
This is what we do. And you know, the folks say we do it well.
Well, I
That's what
enjoy
they
it.
say.
I enjoy watching us.
Listen, we got to recap last week. I don't know if you all saw last week's episode, but was it not awesome?
Edutainment.
Edutainment.
It was edutainment.
Wait a minute, did you coin that phrase?
I did not coin that phrase.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
sit in some spaces and stuff.
Okay, but it's a good one.
Edutaining.
Because
it was edutaining.
it educated us and it entertained
And it
us.
entertained us.
Attorney Joe Smith and Attorney Madeline Savage Towns, were they not phenomenal?
Heavy hitters.
Sharks.
Sharks.
That's what I call them, sharks.
Listen, if I'm going to go to court,
Yeah.
or if I want to keep from going to court,
Yeah, keep from
because I believe they can handle some stuff outside of court.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What was your greatest takeaway last week, or your aha moment?
My aha moment was when she talked about the PPP and how the court system has been held up. So indictments have not really come through.
Yes,
And
that was
we're-
eye-opening.
And we're getting ready.
Right,
to
because
see.
as things open up, not only are restaurants opening up, not only are, countries opening up,
The courts.
the courts are opening up.
And for people, and she said churches are going to go. Some churches are going to
Y'all
go
gonna
down.
get up off the church. We'll pray our way through.
prayer does work. And
Listen.
prayer works, and Madeline and Joe do too.
Right. I think, that was good. And then what Attorney Joe Smith, the things that he shared with us about custody
Yeah,
and what needs to be in the custody agreement.
in that order.
That order.
I
I had never heard of that.
even in the area of decision making,
Yeah, to wear a mask or not to wear a mask.
who is going to have final authority on
Absolutely.
religion,
Oh, let me
on
tell you.
health matters?
I immediately began to think about the women who I have counseled who said, oh, their spirituality doesn't matter, right? When they were thinking about getting married. And not knowing that it can even have implications if that marriage doesn't work with your children.
With your children.
Wow.
With your
wow.
children. You know how people, very practical, they going over their dad's house for the weekend.
Right.
But you got to have that child back on Sunday morning
For
at church.
For church.
Or that child just misses church.
Wow.
Right?
Listen.
You can put
Was it
orders
not
in
good?
place.
I'm telling you. Listen, if you missed Conversations with Linda last week, Lawyer Up was the title. Go back and you can catch it on Facebook, of course, or YouTube. But it was awesome. Attorney Madeline Savage Towns and Attorney Joe Smith, they were superb. Edutainment. I love what you said.
It was entertaining.
But guess what? We got a great topic today.
Deep, and I'm trying to figure out how I always. Now, granted, the first episode of the season was not as deep as this one is today, but I always end up with the deep stuff.
So yeah, this is a deep one
This is
today.
deep.
So today I have Courtney with me talking about a topic that is sensitive, but I believe it's going to be eye-opening and somewhat healing today. It's on daddy issues. Daddy issues. And I want you to stay with me, even though you may feel like I don't have any daddy issues. You may just learn something. And it may not be you. It may be your child, your grandchild, your friend. But we're going to broach this topic, and we're going to do it from a vulnerable way. All right, Courtney. Just going to go on and dive in.
Daddy issues.
It's huge.
It is huge. It is huge.
Yeah.
And you know what I was thinking about? Daddy issues really do impact our relationships on all levels.
Absolutely.
But we don't really have the conversation until we start talking about romantic relationships.
That's so true. You know, and I think that's because we don't realize that we have daddy issues until we're in some type of relationship.
Yeah.
I always say relationships are a mirror to us.
Absolutely.
They reflect what's going on inside of us internally. And sometimes it's what's going on inside of us subconsciously.
Yeah.
We're not even conscious to it's an issue.
Absolutely.
Until we're in a relationship and that mirror is put up, in front of us.
And one of the things that I love that you said in conversations before is perfect love casts out fear. And in the context of relationship, when love plays itself out, what happens is in that process of casting out those fears, things have to come to the surface.
They have to come to the surface.
And as they come to the surface, we start to experience emotions and things that we never experienced. And if we're not careful, we'll think it's that other person.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to go to that. But I want to just ask you, do you have daddy issues? Do you see them manifested in your life in some type of way, relationally or just with you personally? I want you to give us a comment in the feed. You can even go to lindawillisempowers.org and share. You may want to be on our show, but definitely give us some feedback in the comment section and let us know what your daddy issues are. When we talk about daddy issues, Courtney, we're talking about experiences that we've had with our dads, with our fathers, whether they be because of a divorce or even death of a dad.
Absolutely.
And experiencing what can be abandonment or rejection. But not only that, I don't want to just deal with divorce and death, because those are ways, of course, that we have to deal with the absence of our dad. But also that dad that was in the house but was emotionally unavailable.
That's right. Emotionally unavailable, and I would even say emotionally inept.
Wow.
Because what I've realized in dealing with my daddy issues, as I look at my dad's life, he had daddy issues.
He had daddy issues. I'm going there now. You know I'm going there.
Yeah. And there were things that I wanted from my dad that he just couldn't give me.
Yes. Now you can't go to the end of the show.
Okay.
That's going to be in our healing portion.
Okay.
But I'm glad that you are able and are willing to be transparent and vulnerable in this moment. Because oftentimes men don't open up about this, and a lot of what they're dealing with has to do with that. When we think of daddy issues, we think of girls, and there's been this wave in the last 10 or 15 years of daddies really trying to show girls how they're to be treated by men, because we realize that girls suffer with so many things, low self-esteem and all that. But guys suffer from daddy issues as well.
My friends and thankfully I have a group of guys that I talk to, and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with one another. Much of our conversation is us trying to figure out how to love. They're married, how to love our wives, how to love our girlfriends, because we did not have that example. So how do you have a hard conversation with your wife if you've never had your dad to model that? And if he did model that, I have friends whose fathers were abusive. So we don't want to be abusive. So how do we make sure we're not physically abusive? Because our commitment is what? We're not going to be physically abusive, but how do we make sure we're not verbally abusive?
Yeah.
You know.
And you know, as we're talking, I want our audience to be thinking about it, our viewers to be thinking about ways in which these daddy issues have manifested in your own life. You know, and let's all just go down this journey, this lane. I feel like we're going somewhere that's deep. But let's give a moment to think about how that's shown. You know, you said you talk to your friends, and that's so good, but oftentimes that's not the case.
Oh no.
Where we have a community that we can talk to.
No. My friends' wives, when we all get together, our group text is a conversation piece.
Wow.
Because they recognize how significant it is for African American guys to have a space to be vulnerable with one another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask our viewers, how has your daddy issues come into play? We're going to talk about how they manifest in your life personally and relationally now, but how did it happen? Was there the absence of your dad because of, you know, physical absence? He just didn't stay with your mom. Did you ever know your dad? Or did, you know, your dad pass on? Did he die and left you, and you felt abandoned in that way? What about him growing up in the house? He was there, but he was emotionally unavailable, or as Courtney has said, just didn't know how to connect with you. Want to know how your daddy issues came to the surface. How did it happen? What was the experience? Give me some feedback there in the comment section. And you can also go to LindaWillisEmpowers.org. Courtney, you going to say something?
You know, I struggled with finding the words, particularly when my father was still living. I struggled to find how to describe the fact that I had daddy issues because I always knew my dad.
Wow.
I saw my dad every weekend. I spent time with my dad. There are.
So was he just emotionally unavailable?
Emotionally unavailable, emotionally inept. He was not emotionally, intelligent.
That's what you mean when you say inept.
Right.
He was not emotionally intelligent.
Available is the word.
Yeah.
I was not a focus.
Wow.
In my dad's 20s and early 30s, there were other things to my dad
that he was
that were worth investing in or putting his attention on, and that wasn't me.
Wow.
And that wasn't me. So I've had to live with the older guys, some of my cousins and guys in the community. I've had to live with those people seeing my dad as a father figure, and I'm seeing my dad as a person in the house. He makes good eggs and homemade pizzas. You know,
and I will be transparent and vulnerable as well. My mom and dad divorced when I was 3, and my dad was an alcoholic, and I'm talking about alcoholic in the worst way. I'm talking about, not a fun alcoholic. We know that fun guy. That was not him. I'm talking about, abusive, that kind of thing. But I had a good relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
And I think because I was so young that I didn't know anything else. When they divorced, now my siblings, they all have a different story. Because they experienced him as teenagers as they were growing up. But I had a different relationship with him. I didn't know anything else other than visiting a dad.
Yeah.
He by the time
he was not ripped away from you.
No, I didn't know anything else but going to see my dad every Sunday, every other Sunday, or calling him and saying, "Dad, I want this for Christmas," and he got it, right? Yeah. So I think I didn't have a great expectation because it never started.
Yeah.
and was taken away.
And you said something. You know, I have two sisters, but I have one sister, and we share the same father and mother.
Mm-hmm.
My sister, that is 100% my pedigree, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has a different experience with my dad
Wow.
than I do.
Yeah.
I think as the little girl,
mm-hmm.
she wanted time, right? She wasn't necessarily after lessons. She wasn't necessarily after direction, which came from some of the women in my family.
You said she has a different perspective. So does she feel like she had a good relationship with you?
Absolutely.
You know, that's interesting as
Absolutely.
well. That maybe it is even received differently. The same actions, but received differently based on the child.
Yeah.
Whether gender wise or, age wise. Yeah. And you know what was also interesting last week when we talked to the attorneys, some people commented in the feed about, their dads never paid child support, and that affected them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, my daddy paid child support. Mm-hmm. I ain't never see it, which affected how I saw my mama. Because I'm like, well, what you mean? And this is my immature mind. What you mean we don't have money for something if my daddy paying child support? I ain't seen the child support. Mama said, well,
It was the paying y'all's bit.
She went down to a level that children just don't understand. I had to get this oil changed.
Right.
I had to get these tires rotated.
Uh-huh.
You ain't gonna see this money because he don't even give enough for me to have surplus.
Now I had that kind of money. now I want to know, if your dad and mom divorced, mom got child support, did you get the child support, or did dad even pay child support? You know what my dad paid, and I said this last week on the show. $50. There were 5 kids. He paid $50. Now, granted, he didn't make a lot, but I mean, he could have paid more than $50. Mm-hmm. And with each child turning 18, $10 was subtracted. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got some size, and my siblings were over 18, it was just $10. But let me tell you what subsidized it. Mm-hmm. My dad was quite a bit older than my mom, and he started getting Social Security. Okay. And Social Security, when y'all may not know this, but when the dad gets Social Security and even disability, that child is entitled by way of the government to receive a check. Absolutely. Yeah. So one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So that subsidized it. And by the time I was 16, my mom started giving me that money, and I started saving it, and that's how I ended up getting my first car. Yeah. So but my mom did have that perspective. Mm-hmm. Her perspective was, look, now I got to keep lights on, a roof over your head. Yeah, this is going towards that.
Now, with you, I always explore things that I never explored before. And now I'm going to explore this. I've never explored this, period.
Okay.
What I have not realized is the layered daddy issues. The layered daddy issues that I have. I had my biological father. Mm-hmm. Then my mom was married to my stepdaddy.
Oh, layered.
They ended up divorcing.
Wow.
So the guy that taught me how to cut the grass didn't handle my mom properly. Wow. And I had to watch that.
Ooh, this is deep, y'all.
I had to watch my mom even do what she knew to do. You put your husband, it's husband, like you talked about, and then children. I had to watch my mom process a husband not treat her right, and in turn not do right by her children. I had to process both of those.
Okay, we're going to take all of this in. Listen, we're going to take a commercial break. We want to give you a minute to just exhale, and then we're going to come back and go deeper. Ebony's Delightful Catering is always prepared to handle your celebratory needs, from intimate private dinner for 2, or she can serve as many as 1,000 people per event. Offerings are available for brunch and breakfast with the often requested shrimp and grits. EDC would love to make all your events more than memorable with professional services she aims to please. I can speak personally by telling you that Ebony's Delightful Catering has hosted many of my special events, and we're always pleased. That's Ebony's Delightful Catering. She aims to please. Welcome back to Conversations with Linda. We're in the middle of a deep conversation. Of course, my co-host, my co-pilot is with me, Courtney Richardson. I want to know if you have daddy issues. That's what we're talking about today. Those experiences of having dealing with the absence of a dad, whether by death or divorce, a dad that was in the house, emotionally unavailable though, or even how did dad not paying child support or paying very little in child support, how did those issues affect you? Daddy issues are what we're talking about. Courtney?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, one of the things that I want to make sure though that we acknowledge under daddy issues is there are some girls in particular, women in particular, who have had great dads, exceptional dads, and that becomes a daddy issue.
It becomes a daddy issue.
You know, when you think about it, you're like, well, how would a woman, have a daddy issue and she had a phenomenal dad? For her, that can be such a standard that she can't find anybody in the real world that measures up to her dad.
Absolutely.
And it becomes a daddy issue.
And I try to, so my little sister, Sydney's dad is not in the home. So in many regards, I've had to be intentional about giving her that emotional support. And what I try to be intentional about, now, verdict is still out.
Okay.
She's 20 years old. I've tried to be intentional about making a line of delineation as to what am I doing for you because I have the ability to do it because of my financial status, and what am I giving you because this is what a man must give you. This is a non-negotiable.
I am so glad. Let me first just, slow this down a minute to say kudos to you for being that surrogate for her. Even just as a brother. We don't even have to say a surrogate father. Being a good brother. Because I think that matters. I have 3 brothers, and they were very affirming to me. And that probably made up some of that difference of my dad not being in the home, is that I had, those 3 brothers. So, it's something to be said for even mothers making sure that your sons are good to their sisters.
That's right.
I think that's good.
That is so true. I've had to, and I just had to do it. I realized because in doing the work that I do with youth, I remember sitting with my mom once and saying of my little sister, Mama, I do work with young people all the time who have to process their parents divorcing. Yeah. I said, are we doing what we need to do to support Sydney emotionally?
Oh, wow.
Because she is the product of a divorced relationship. Are we having those conversations and doing what we need to do?
And I know, I don't even have to think, I know when 2 adults are going through a divorce, they are oftentimes so consumed with the marital divorce, the disconnect, or the marital, all that's happening to them as a human being, that oftentimes they lose sight of how the breakup is going to affect the child. Or how it is not just going to, it is, as they're seeing. I remember, we just woke up and was in a different place. That night, my mom decided it was time to leave. The next morning, we were in an apartment in a different place. And we had to go on with life.
That's right.
Nobody asked us how we felt.
How are you doing?
And I was 3 years old, but I was a knowledgeable 3 years old. So I understood that. This happened last night, and so today we're in a different.
This different. This is different. Yeah.
No, and I understand that when you're going through, you're just trying to pick up the pieces and move forward. But we need to really think about how it affects everyone in the family.
You know what helped me even when my mom was transitioning out of the relationship with my stepdad? Because that had the potential to really be a huge issue. My mom said to me as she was transitioning, Courtney, and at the time it was 5 of us, and my sisters, my mom, stepfather, I thought it was 5 of us, but I realized it was only 4 of us.
Wow.
And what that did for me is it helped me make a line between what's right and wrong, even as it comes to how men should operate in the house or all
Wow.
operate in the house. I have to try to stay away from these shoulds, you know.
Right. So I just want to, maybe by now, as we are in this conversation, you're thinking about your own daddy issues and thinking about how they have manifested themselves in your life. One of the things that I do know is that daddy issues can really affect us in how we relate. And Courtney and I talked about that, how we relate to other people, especially in our intimate relationships. And I want you to give some consideration to that. You know, we don't even realize that we are looking or attracting relationships that mirror our dads. We don't even realize that. You say, well, how could that be? Well, oftentimes we are wanting to correct what we feel was a deficiency, and we find someone, unbeknownst to us, that's just like our dad, but it's a subconscious attempt to correct it, to win his love. And so we're attracted to emotionally unavailable men because we are living that thing right back out, trying to fix it subconsciously, y'all, that I got to win your love. And speaking of winning your love, a lot of women especially struggle with low self-worth, low self-esteem, because they feel that if daddy
didn't take the time,
if he left, he left because of me.
Wow.
I wasn't good enough.
Wow.
Right? If he rejected me, and so she can spend her life, you know, dealing with low self-esteem. Another thing that she can do is have another way it can be manifested is having excessive neediness. The need to be validated first. So she gets, in a relationship, and she's constantly needing to know that he loves her, constantly needing to know, that everything's all right.
And it manifests, and it's not that guy doesn't affirm.
No, it's excessive. She needs so much because she has that fear,
Okay.
that, does he love? I know he loved me yesterday, but does he love me today?
Yeah.
Right? And another thing, as I'm just thinking about ways, and you may be thinking about your own ways, trust is huge.
Yes, it is.
Because when dad left, or he didn't, the unpredictability of dad can create in you this thing of, I don't trust anybody because I don't know when you're going to change on me. You're here today, but I don't know if you're going to be gone tomorrow. So I'm going to make sure that I, put a wall up. I'm not going to let you get too far in. Right? I want y'all to think about that. Give me a comment in the feed if you're struggling with that, of trusting, not feeling stable because of the relationship with dad. He was so unpredictable in the house.
So you work so hard to make sure that you have your own stability. That you even if you do change up on me,
right, I'm gonna be all right.
And I want to let you know. Before you ever show me signs that you will change up on me, I want to let you know that I'm going to be all right if you do change up on me.
And and we can get that from our moms. Because I remember my mom saying, look, you have your own. Because, you don't ever know what a man's going to do.
And I've never asked you this. This ain't on the cards. How did that play out in you and Bishop's relationship early on?
Oh, Bishop, listen, and I talk about that in our episode about our relationship, that I had real issues with independence.
Okay.
I was taught to be an independent woman. You get an education, you get a good job, and you take care of yourself. So coming into this relationship with him and submitting and all, I was like, submitting? What is that?
Now, we can't say that word these days.
Right. Oh, that's a whole nother.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But I want to speak to, before I speak to healing, I want to speak to the men. Because also it can manifest in men really fighting not to be like their dads. To the extreme. Not even being able, and they can be like their dads and not see it.
Not even see it.
Be in denial.
And not see it.
Right?
I have, So this whole emotionally unavailable piece. When we when we say that we're going to fortify our homes, this is where I see it with men.
Okay.
We're going to fortify our homes. We're going to make sure our home is strong. We're going to make sure that our wives are protected. But then you're not emotionally available for your wife. And it feels like, wait a minute, I can't be vulnerable right here, because me being vulnerable right here means that I'm not assuming my role as a man, which means I'm now becoming like my dad
and
in
don't
this
even
household.
know it. Don't even know it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I want to speak to our men out there that are viewing, how has your dad issues manifested? What do you know you're dealing with? One of the things I know that men deal with is commitment. And that oftentimes come from daddy issues. That commitment phobia that you got, that you're afraid of commitment. Oftentimes, if you get to the root of that, it's some daddy issues there. It's some daddy issues there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
So much we could say about this, but I want to move forward and just talk about how we can heal.
Yeah.
Y'all, we gotta heal now. We can't just talk about it.
That's right.
And not heal from it.
Yeah.
All right. So this topic came up because I did a little Zoom, a workshop with a church on daddy issues. Yeah. And I want to speak to some things that I shared with them concerning how to heal.
Yeah.
All right.
And let me say, even before you share those, as we've been having this conversation and as we were preparing for this conversation, we met in 2015. I came to be a part of the church. And my father passed away that year.
Sure did.
And we were working through my daddy issues.
Ooh, wow.
Right, I remember some conversations that we had.
You're right.
Bishop and I sat down and had some conversations.
You're right. I remember that.
I remember my talking with you about my dad. One of the things you said to me was, Courtney, I attended his funeral, and it seemed that they were talking about a different person than who you were talking about. Do you remember that?
Yes.
But as we were preparing for this, and even as we're having this conversation, and let me say, thanks to you, I don't feel those issues anymore.
Wow.
I feel like in diving and being vulnerable about this, I feel that I'm having to visit an old place.
Yeah, but with a different perspective.
With a different perspective.
I love it. I love it. Love it.
Healing is certainly the goal.
Healing is the goal, you all. We are not going to just talk about it. We're going to heal from it. So I want to let me just share some things that I believe, will bring about healing. Yeah. First, let me give this caveat. Healing takes time. Yes. Healing is a process. So the things that I'm going to share with you, I don't want you to feel like I'm going to do them all today and then I'll never have daddy issues again. You will revisit some places, but you're going to revisit them equipped with what you need, with the things I'm sharing with you now. And this is not all of it, but the things I'm sharing with you now, you'll be equipped with the tools that you need to recover and move forward. Keep moving forward, because that's the goal. We're going to keep moving forward. So one of the things that I want to share with our viewing audience is, at some point, you have to stop rehearsing and ruminating. That's what we call it in mental health, on the past. Yeah. It is so easy, as you said, to go back to the place. That's right. We go, but it's how you go.
That's right.
Now, when I talk about my dad and the things that he did, and that's a whole nother show. I mean, this is a lot that I could unpack about that. But when I talk, I am revisiting them, but I'm not ruminating on them. I'm not rehearsing those things in my thoughts and in my conversation. I have this saying, and I didn't coin it.
Okay.
But I believe it's true. It says, birds can fly over your head. Yeah. But that does not entitle them to be able to make a nest in your hair. Yeah. So thoughts are going to come.
They will.
Triggers.
Yes.
Triggers.
Absolutely.
Will come. But that doesn't mean you have to be consumed with
That's right.
that thought.
That's right.
You don't have to let that thought take you back to that feeling. I can go to the thought but not have the feeling.
That's good. That's really good.
Uh-huh.
And talking about ruminating, there is in this whole daddy issue piece, and let me say for men, when we have those daddy issues and we ruminate on them, that creates a crutch.
Oh, yeah.
It creates a crutch for us.
Oh, that's good.
That disallows us or disables us from being the men that we really should be.
It gives us a legitimate excuse.
A legitimate excuse until you meet somebody like Linda
that's going to challenge you on
it. Who says, oh, absolutely not.
Right. Because it's an explanation. Yep. Hear me when I say it's an explanation, but it's not an excuse.
That's right.
Right? And so I don't know who needs to hear that word today, but when you, especially men, I'm so glad you said that, but especially men, it becomes your excuse for whatever you're not doing, for not stepping up to the plate, being the man that you need to be, not taking care of your family, not committing. But I'm here to tell you, I'm so glad Courtney brought that up. It is an explanation, but it's not an excuse. It did happen, but it is an illegitimate reason to not do what you're supposed to do.
It's an irrational reason
to
keep you from taking on the responsibility that you have in present day to be who the people around you are expecting and calling for you to be.
Right. So in case you are just now viewing with Conversations with Linda, we're talking about daddy issues, and we're on the road to healing. And I'm sharing along with my co-host, my co-pilot, Courtney, about some ways, some steps that you can take to heal. And so one of those ways that you can heal is first you got to make a decision to stop rehearsing, stop ruminating, stop going over and over what happened. Will thoughts come? Yes, but you don't have to sit in those thoughts, and you don't have to be consumed with those thoughts.
Can we do that?
I do want to tell the people that you got to, along with not ruminating, rehearsing, you got to reframe or reconceptualize the narrative.
Oh, that's good.
Okay? His rejection of you, abandonment of you, does not mean there was something wrong with you.
That's right.
And if your narrative says, it questions, why did he leave me? What did I do? What did I not do? You got to reconceptualize that narrative, because undoubtedly it was his issue. And I want to say that to somebody. I know they want me to wrap this show up, but listen, you've got to know that it's his issue. It's a problem when his issue becomes your issue, but his issue really doesn't have to be your issue. You can leave it where it is. It was whatever it was going on with him, whatever was going on with he and your mom, but those were his issues. So I want you to take a moment and reconceptualize, reframe that narrative, that it wasn't anything wrong with you, nothing you did or didn't do. It was the issue that was going on with your daddy. Our question today comes from a viewer in Atlanta, Georgia. They ask, if you have established a codependency within a friendship, however, the friendship has taken a hard shift, how do you navigate ridding yourself of a codependent relationship? Let me just begin by making sure that we all know what codependency is. A person is codependent who allows another person's behavior to affect them. A person who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. That other person may be a parent, a child, a sibling, a friend, and yes, a spouse. It is usually someone who has some type of issue, whether they be drugs or alcohol, a mental illness or other type of sickness, or just self-destructive behavior. You can find yourself in a codependent relationship with them, trying to control their behavior. Can I tell you that it is human to try to help people? But the problem is when helping someone else is hurting you. When you have lost your boundaries because you're trying to save them. and you end up destroying yourself, whether it be through your finances, your own health, or other significant parts of your life. So what is the answer? Identify the need you have in you. How is saving them validating you? That's a good question that you need to ask yourself. Although we believe that it's all about them, they need our help, they need us to save them, rescue us, there's something inside of you that's being validated, affirmed, or fed by helping them. So maybe you need a little therapy. Also, you have to accept the fact that people have the right, especially adults, that's who I'm talking about, to make their own choices about the path that they take, even when that choice is a destructive one. So oftentimes we're trying to save people, but they have a right to drown if they want to drown. And so we have to begin to accept, honor people's choices. No matter whether they want the good that you want for them, they don't want it for themselves, you can't make them. So you've got to establish some good boundaries. Their problem is their problem. And sometimes you have to risk dissolving the relationship in order to save yourself. I hope this has helped you in some kind of way to deal with the codependent behavior that you have admitted that you have. I want to leave you with this because I share this all the time with people who are dealing with codependency. It's called the Serenity Prayer. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's my prayer for you, my friend, that you have the wisdom to know the difference. God bless you on your journey through life.
If you have a question for Linda, submit it online at lindawillisempowers.org. She's a wife, she's a mother and grandmother, she's a pastor and life strategist. Submit your question today at lindawillisempowers.org.
All right. I can't believe this is, I got too much to tell.
But you know what? Not only, I command you in the name of Jesus to write a book about this.
Y'all know Courtney is so churchy.
You got to write a book about this. Can you
so
give me your word that you're going to write a book about this?
I really am.
Okay.
Because I mean, you know, it's just so much to talk about.
Okay.
But, all right. I'm lost because I was ready to just go down my list.
We know that you've not run out of conversation.
Okay, he's trying to coach me right here on Conversations. But yeah, it's time for us to heal from our daddy issues. Release yourself from your daddy issues.
And it's possible.
Yes, it's possible.
It's possible.
You're a living witness.
I'm telling you.
You're a living witness.
Ooh, it's possible.
See, you really want to go. You really want to go deeper.
We need to stop. We got to stop.
Okay. They're telling me I got to stop. But I have so enjoyed, and I really have. Can I just commend you for saying, I can go back to that place, but I go back with a different perspective. Yeah. So I've enjoyed talking to you, having this conversation with you. Man, we're out of time, but y'all know I'm never out of conversation. Tune in every Sunday evening right here at 7 p.m. Conversations with Linda. I'm out of here.